morning, Dr. Warwick and class. In this presentation, we will be discussing how our chosen tyrant, MENGISTU HAILE MARIAM, is the most appalling African dictator in history.
Lieutenant Colonel MENGISTU HAILE MARIAM, born in 1937, became the head of state of Ethiopia and chairman of the ruling military government, the Derg, after a 1974 revolution deposed Emperor Haile Selassie. He was also the head of the Central Committee of Ethiopia's Socialist Workers' Party. Mengistu resigned as head of state in 1991 and fled into exile.
As a young man, Mengistu joined the army and served as a private before attending Ethiopia's HAILE Military Academy. He graduated in 1966 with the rank of second lieutenant. By 1974, Mengistu had risen to the rank of major and had developed the effective leadership skills which made him popular among his fellow junior officers and the rank and file of the 3rd Division. These talents proved important in his rise to the top of Ethiopia's military government in the political vacuum during the revolution.
Mengistu rose to prominence in positions of power, such as chairman of the Armed Forces Coordinating Committee and vice chairman of the Provisional Military Administrative Council, PMAC, which was run by the Derg as a result of the military's key role in the Ethiopian Revolution that in September 1974 deposed Emperor Haile Selassie, who had ruled Ethiopia since 1916.
Shortly after coming to power, all rural land was nationalized, stripping the Ethiopian church, the imperial family, and the nobility of their sizable estates and the bulk of their wealth. During the same period, all foreign-owned and locally owned companies were nationalized without compensation in an effort to redistribute the country's wealth.
All undeveloped urban property and all rental property was also nationalized. Private businesses such as banks and insurance companies, large retail businesses, etc. were also taken over by the government. All this nationalized property was brought under the administration of large bureaucracies set up to administer them.
On November 23, 1974, Mengistu ordered the assassination of the PMAC's moderate chairman and urged the killing of 60 aristocrats and former officials of the old imperial regime. By killing selected enemies within the PMAC, Mengistu became the acknowledged strongman of a regime that proceeded to nationalize industries and farmlands.
April 29, 1977, represents a key peak in violence and marked the start of the first wave of intense mass killings, with at least 1,000 killed in a few days in Addis Ababa alone. Thousands were killed from the end of April to June, with major house searches occurring, again with Kebeles having full authority to kill suspects without question or need to justify their actions. And now, the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Party, the EPRP, in Addis Ababa was officially obliterated.
He then, in September 1977, unleashed a bloody Red Terror campaign to crush armed opponents among the civilian populace. The death count is unknown for this campaign, but it is often estimated between 30,000 to 750,000. The Ethiopian Red Terror was a violent political repression campaign of the Derg against other competing Marxist-Leninist groups between 1976 to 1977. This internal rebellion and government repression characterized Mengistu's presidency.
Mengistu made several visits to the Soviet Union between 1977 and 1984, as well as other visits to his political allies such as Cuba. Mengistu obviously feels much closer emotionally to Havana than Moscow, and is proud to say that the peoples of revolutionary Cuba and Ethiopia are now united in blood, as a result of the 1977 war with neighboring Somalia over the disputed Ogaden region. Cuban combat troops played a key role in Ethiopia's victory, and there are still about 15,000 of them stationed mainly in the Ogaden to hold die-hard Somali guerrillas in check, while Ethiopian forces reconquer the northernmost province from Eritrean separatists.
In 1980, Mengistu announced the formation of the Committee to form the Party of the Workers of Ethiopia, with himself as chair. 4 years later, a full-fledged Party of the Workers of Ethiopia was established, modeled on the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, and again Mengistu was its chief. The political killings continued. In the mid-1980s, it was not uncommon to see students, suspected government critics, or rebel sympathizers hanging from lampposts each morning.
Farmers who had once worked on land owned by absentee landlords were now compelled to join collective farms. All agricultural products were no longer to be offered on the free market, but were to be controlled and distributed by the government. Despite progressive agricultural reforms, under the Derg, agricultural output suffered due to civil war, drought, and misguided economic policies that caused the famine in 1984, which was the 10th anniversary of the Derg, and was estimated to have killed around 1 million people.
Ordinary people were too terrified to talk to Western reporters. Other people were executed in the notorious state prison on the edge of the capital, Addis Ababa. Families had to pay a tax known as the wasted bullet to obtain the bodies of their loved ones. At the height of his power, Mengistu himself frequently garroted or shot dead opponents, saying that he was leading by example.
Successor Ethiopian Rems unsuccessfully lobbied the Zimbabwean government for Mengistu's extradition on charges of genocide. He was charged with this because his government was charged with the killing of between 1.2 and 2 million people. Tried in absentia, he was found guilty of genocide in December 2006 and was given a life sentence the next year. Following a successful appeal from the prosecution, which argued that Mengistu's crimes merited more than a life sentence, in May 2008, Mengistu was sentenced to death. Due to his unethical rise to power, corruption, mass killings, suppression of his opposition, and mismanagement of the farmlands, which caused the death of 1.2 to 2 million lives, we firmly believe it is valid to say that Mengistu Haile Mariam is the most appalling African dictator in history. Thank you.